it became a passion. If I can be an entrepreneur, then how do I use my energy and my expertise and talent that I have supporting other entrepreneurs around the world? The whole mantra of trying to find not just unreasonable people, but almost delusional. It's like I'm gonna change the world. And that type of mindset is the only way that these goals could be achieved.
The very first fireside chat of this inaugural program is with the true co-founder of this partnership, Debass. Huge round of applause for Tomas first. But Tomas, what I want to do is actually go into your story a little bit, because you and I, we've never done that. Yeah. We've jammed together, worked together for years.
Yeah.
And I literally don't know where your energy, where your passion, where your enthusiasm, where all this comes from. So can you tell us a little bit about, let's go way back in time.
Okay.
Like your upbringing, your childhood, where you're from, and how that shaped kind of the path that you're now on. But let's go back first.
Oh man, you're gonna make me cry and stuff. Is there any tissue papers I can use?
We can get that.
No, so yes, my story, I was born in Ethiopia from actually Eritrean family. For those of you who do not know geopolitics, Ethiopia and Eritrea used to be together. It's a former Italian colony. My family moved through the conflict to Ethiopia, then I was born in Ethiopia. So, but I came to the U.S. at kind of early teen, about 12, 13 years, because my family migrated back in the 70s during the military regime and things like that, which we discussed a little bit this morning about that. So that's kind of my genesis of who I am in terms of how I came to America. Then I went to college. I wanted to be.
I'm going to interrupt you. Yeah. So coming from Ethiopia to the U.S.
Yes.
What propelled that? That's not a small
move. This is the family reunion.
Yeah.
My family were already there, and kind of you go through the normal the immigrant story, right? You kind of gravitate toward where the nucleus is, and that's why I came. It wasn't political prosecution or economic. It was just I miss my dad.
Yeah.
Simple as that, and that's essentially what happened for me to kind of coming to America in that sense. And it wasn't coming to America like the movie, okay? I was not a prince or anything like that. I was a prince of soccer, I could tell you that. I was a wicked player, but that's where it closed. That's what it comes down to. But that's essentially that. And I came to the D.C. area because that's where mostly the Ethiopian community kind of, and that's pretty much it.
Yeah, and then you're saying you went.
Yeah, then I went to college and I wanted to be an engineer, and I went to Virginia Tech, and then within the first semester I knew that wasn't my cup of tea.
Yeah,
and I actually pursued it until my probably junior year. By that time economics was something that I took a class in economics, and it just was natural to me, completely natural. Like I never had any confusion about what economics was about, and I pursued that, and I went to graduate school, pursued applied economics, and I got out. Yeah. And that's essentially where I came out of school from, an economist.
And now, you've been in State Department and U.S. government for how long?
15 years.
So what was the leap from economics into public service?
Oh, well, that's a loaded question. I actually had a startup.
Yeah.
In college. This is 99 where the whole .com boom was happening. Me and a friend of mine had a .com idea called afridigital.com. I still own the domain name.
Afridigital.
afridigital.com, yeah. We wanted to kind of be the Yahoo of Africa at that point. And the .com burst up in 2000. Let alone to be a .com in Africa. It was a bad thing even in the U.S.
A little early. You were a little early.
Completely, yeah. And then I went overseas and did a little bit of consulting. I lived in Eritrea and Uganda and Bangladesh and other places. And then I came like in 9/11. When 9/11 happened, my wife was at that time at the World Bank. And we were kind of living apart. It's tough to kind of manage a family in that basis. And I came back. Within 3 weeks, I got to the U.S. 9/11 happened. And I was still trying to pursue this entrepreneur kind of mindset. And someone told me there was this agency who gives money away if you're an American. And it was an agency called OPIC, the Overseas Private Investment Corporation. I'm like, I said, I'm an American. Show me the money. How do I get down like that? And I went and called the agency. No one would call me.
Nobody picked up.
Yeah. Then there was a job on the announcement. There was a job for an economist. I'm like, I'm an economist. I applied, and they called me back. And I thought they were calling me for the money. I was so disappointed when they told me it was about the jobs. Like, and I went through the interview process, and I got the job. And so at that point, I said, if I can't be an entrepreneur at this point, at least let me see how this agency supports entrepreneurial. And I got into it, and it became a passion. If I can't be an entrepreneur, then how do I use my energy and my expertise and talent that I have supporting other entrepreneurs around the world? And ever since then, I was at USAID and came back to OPIC then, and then about 7 years ago, I got recruited to go to state. And now I'm just a hustler at the State Department.
So I don't know if anybody else feels this with Tomas, but I know I do, which is when I envision head of global partnerships for the U.S. State Department, I don't envision an aggressively entrepreneurial, lighthearted, kind of hell-bent, determined, positive person. Like, are you a misfit within the U.S. government, or is the U.S. government infiltrated with entrepreneurs like you, and we just don't know about it?
Yeah. I wouldn't want to say I'm a misfit, then I might get fired on Monday. So. Exactly. No, and I think there are folks like me, and you could not survive in institutions like that as a sole entity. You have to be among a team that breathes, and as I was saying earlier yesterday, birds of the same feather flock together. And I work in an environment and a team that are like me. They are trying to solve a problem. They would not take no for an answer. And they're excited about working with others. And they also understand this concept that the world has shifted very dramatically. And I think the government-to-government type of relationships are now shifting to not just government to private sector, government to unreasonable, government to NGO, whatever that relationship is. So that shift makes us excited. So that we could do what we do best, rather than just the kind of the old mentality of a government and a government come together to solve a problem.
So we're doing it right now in this room in terms of public-private partnership. But I think to most entrepreneurs outside this room that it almost sounds like an oxymoron. Like, how do you partner with the U.S. government, or how do you partner with any national government as a scrappy entrepreneur who's trying to scale something really quickly? What tactics, advice, feedback, failures would you give to entrepreneurs who want to engage with the government but have no idea how, and it's just intimidating and it's all sin? It just seems like this massive institution.
Massive. Yes, that's a beautiful question. I think the key element for entrepreneurs is not to underestimate yourself, the value that you bring to the table. Because governments know what their value is. I mean, they're massive, they're a bureaucracy, they have relationships around the world, so they're quite clear what they bring to the table. But because of the shift that I'm telling you about, how the world has shifted, I'll give you this data point that we use a lot. Back in the 1970s, the financial flows from the U.S. to the developing world, about 85 to 90% used to be what we call ODA, official development assistance. This is just government money, taxpayers' money who go to assist the countries. In 2016, it's completely shifted. 90% of it is you. Less than 10% is actually U.S. government money. So our entire model has now shifted. We can't act like we're the gods of everything that we do have. So we've now recognized that you are our Uber for diplomacy and development. You've disrupted what it means to be a diplomat. And you have entities like Gates Foundation, who's got more money than the U.S. government in terms of resources and reach that they have. So we've humbly recognized that we don't have to burden the responsibility of taking care of the world and ensuring these type of relationships are happening. You all are doing that. There are some American companies right now. You in Guatemala, you don't have my diplomatic passport, but you are our ambassador in Guatemala. I mean, and vice versa. I mean, some of the Swedes, you're coming here, you're kind of representing Sweden for, coming here. So that mindset kind of changes what it means to be a global citizen, what it means to be part of a solution providing type of generation that's coming up. So I think those are the type of mindset that we come from, in a sense of that then panicking, oh my God, there are new actors now, we're being disrupted. We welcome that disruption. Yeah. And that's like at least the viewpoint that we take.
How, this is a tactical question, but a real curiosity. You are really entrepreneurial in terms of just pulling triggers. I mean, on this partnership, like the pace, we pulled this partnership together faster than any partnership we've ever done with any multinational, any private company, and it was with the U.S. State Department. Yeah. It was with Tomas.
Isn't that the irony, right?
But how? A lot of entrepreneurs, we have to deal with huge bureaucracies. Yes. Through the partnerships that we have, sometimes within our own companies or in our own boards. How do you keep that entrepreneurial energy in the face of so much bureaucracy and keep doing it, because you've been doing this for so long and it seems like you still bring so much energy to it?
Yeah, I mean, I think some of it is experience, right? You kind of understand the bureaucracy, so you try to tame it from a point of view of how do I get stuff done. I don't try to change the bureaucracy. You accept it what it is, but you create these ways or means to get stuff done. And most of it happens as a team. It's not like me as an individual, but if we have the will, if we want to do something, we'll try to find creative ways to get to yes. Because I think bureaucracies get a bad rap about the default is no. In some cases it is, I'm not going to lie to you. But there are folks within these institutions, not just the state, but other government agencies, who are trying to get to yes. Because their hearts are aligned to what they want to do. And I think that's the reason why our speed was kind of unprecedented, is that A, we believed in it, and B, we found the right partner. C, it was kind of a no-brainer. And so why create drama when there's a no-brainer? So some of it is logical. It's not rocket science. But I think that's the way I try to define why we go in the speed of business. And the other thing is I don't deal with governments. I only deal with private organizations. That's the universe that I'm in at state. So I try to get into the HOV lane of what the business is, because if I'm going at the speed of government, then I can't partner with anybody. Yeah. And you can only partner with yourself, and that's not partnership. That's just bureaucracy in a sense. So the only way that I can get stuff done is by getting, at least, I might not be as fast as the government, I mean the private sector, but I try to be in that lane at least, to ensure that I can continue to collaborate. And at the end of the day, it's like anything in the line of business you're in. When you get a client, it's all, the next referral we get is from a good customer and all. It's the same for me. You had a good experience working with us, and now I've changed your perception of what it means to work with State Department. So tomorrow, if you have an idea, you don't dismiss it at the face value that, they're not going to work with me. You're going to say, hey, let me go to State. And that's really, to me, that the best compliment I could get is when someone comes back and says, ask me for something I didn't even think State could do. Yeah. That would be the most awesome thing. Because that's what you're trying to redefine what a foreign affairs agency should do. It shouldn't just be giving visas and passports, but open up the world for you from symbolically point of view. So I think that's the way at least I approach that.
So we talked about it a little bit at dinner, but the elephant in the room in some ways is current international and domestic perception of the U.S. government, especially around foreign policy, and that's your world. I mean, how has the current state of affairs affected your work, and how do you persevere through that?
Great question. I mean, I think we're in transition period. I mean, I've been in the government now for 15 years, and I've seen different transitions happen. And this is not unusual in the sense of having a state of time where we don't have much clarity about what priorities we're going to be advancing. I mean, I felt the same way even when we had a transition between Secretary Clinton to Secretary Kerry, and those kind of things. So these are natural cycles that happen. So the broader question is, I do not know yet. I'm not sure. I mean, I don't have a clarity about what are the type of priorities that I need to be advancing. The broader thing I could tell you is, from a foreign policy point of view, that the infrastructure still stays the same. Yeah. some of our priorities still the same, some of the areas that we focus on are the same, and this gathering that we have is part of that, right? Trying to solve global challenges is not a political thing; it's a fact. And I think we try to focus on things we know we can do and we need to advance, and we wait for guidance. In a sense of once the administration puts its staffing pattern in place, then once we have that guidance, then we can then go advance what America's values are around the world. So those are the kind of areas that are naturally they're still waiting. We're in 4 months, I think 4 months into it, and I think once the full staff of the political staff comes in, and we'll have some guidance in terms of how we move forward. But we're still open for business. We're still on those kind of things. Yeah.
Still kicking butt.
Yes, indeed.
So you worked across multiple administrations.
Yes.
And so we don't have to go into where you politically stand at all, but different administrations clearly have very different political stances.
Yes.
How do you see? Yeah. How do you keep the confidence and the optimism that you have with such a change in leadership?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, it's all about the legacy of the institutions you work for, right? And I think I mentioned this yesterday that the State Department is a house that Thomas Jefferson built. Yeah. It has centuries of history of what it means to be in that type of institution. So you have to put that in the historical context of that, rather than an election that just happened. Yeah. Elections happen every 4 years. Administrations change, but the infrastructure of American foreign policy stays true. Yeah. And that's kind of that's what I focus on. The other thing is, as a public servant, career public servant, you try to go beyond. You try to be apolitical. You try to be agnostic, where you're trying to advance the public good, and whatever that foreign policy might be, you try to do that. So you try to focus on the areas where your mandate, where your consciousness and your work could lead you to, rather than on issues that are beyond your jurisdiction, in a sense. I am not the president, I'm not the secretary, and those type of things happen in that realm, and my job is to obviously advance the foreign policy that's been formulated to move forward. And the beauty of it is I deal with the private sector, and the private sector is all demand driven. Yeah. If they don't buy what I sell, then I don't do it. Yeah. So it's not forced. It's an organic relationship that you build, and when those two things align, and this has happened even in previous administrations, where there were some things that the private sector didn't want to do with us. It wasn't a political thing. Like, that's not our cup of tea. Yeah. I'm drinking coffee, you're drinking tea. We don't come together, and it's all good. And I think these things are going to happen again, and we'll have some private sector interest in some of the things we work, and some of them we don't. And you don't try to force an organic synergies. And things will work great. If not, and then we kind of try to look for new ways to engage.
So I think this is my last question, and then we'll open it up. Sure. Hopefully, I think that myself and our team at Unreasonable, we get too much credit for this partnership in some ways. It's even called Unreasonable Goals, because really, in so many ways, this was your baby. This was your idea. You were the genesis of this partnership, and obviously we came together and co-founded it. Yeah. But two questions. One is, why this partnership? And the second one is just like, how does it feel now that it's real? But let's go with why first.
Yeah, I think the why was, there was this big agreement called the SDG that all these nations come together and signed. And so at that point, there was no question of why. The whole world said we're going to do this. So then what does the U.S. country, it's not about the U.S. government, what is the U.S. contribution should be for this grand, goals? And I think one of the things that the U.S. is known for is it's an entrepreneurship, mindset and culture, whether it's Silicon Valley or any kind of things that you think about. So we said, let's just then focus on what America is all about. And most importantly, how does these goals going to be achieved? Wouldn't be just solely for, when you compare the Millennium Development Goals versus SDGs, one of the things that you have to give credit to the UN is that they try to emphasize on the SDG side, their contribution the private sector could make. On MDG side, private sector was not even was not even on the table. So because of that, that's the one of the things we wanted to focus. Now the question is why unreasonable, right? Obviously, we worked with you in the past. And the other thing is just the whole mantra of trying to find not just unreasonable people, but almost delusional.
Everybody here.
Like, I'm serious. Like, to the point where the insanity is there to say, you know what? I'm not just like I'm going to make $1 million, or I'm going to make. This is like I'm going to change the world. And that type of mindset is the only way, frankly, the only way that these goals could be achieved. And having seen the work that you've done in the past, and we've worked on a collaboration before, and witnessing that in San Francisco almost a year ago, and that's when I've been lurking on this idea for a long time, like trying to talk to different people, but seeing what you've done, in a sense, that at that point it was a done deal in terms of doing that. The other thing is like seeing it now happen. Yeah. You and I was sitting down in that garden and talking about this and kind of chit-chatting what that would look like is what entrepreneurship all is about. Right? You have this simple idea, and if it was just me, whatever money I had to do that, I would have never make it happen. But you inspire somebody, should we do this? And you not only infectiously said yes, say, you know what, we will even put more things together. And this is what the power of collaboration is all about. Right? And I saw someone shared this example with me. I was in Miami recently where they said like a single horse, Dodge horse or whatever they call it, pulls like 8,000 pounds of weight. You would imagine a second one would double that, but a second one actually makes it to 24,000. It's like almost triples. And that to me was kind of an example of my $1, your $1 didn't just make to $2. It became $1 million. Do you know what
one equals $1 million.
$1 million. That's the, in a sense, is that collaboration is just not about the simple math of 1 + 1 = 2. You're actually defying even the logic of math. 1 + 1 actually is much bigger than 2. Yeah. And I think this is essentially the example, genesis of what that means, the essence of what it means when you collaborate. You could just, expand something beyond. I never thought we would be sitting here. I thought, we're still going to be talking about it. But it's awesome that we got this thing done.
Yeah. So when we walked out, we're talking about it in the garden. It's a longer story. Yeah. I actually came back to the team and I was like, I think we're going to partner with the U.S. State Department and launch this whole initiative. Yeah. And they were like, how do you know? I was like, Tomas said we're going to do it. We're going to do it. And a year later, it's been a privilege of a journey. We're just at the start. I think we will wrap this up and wrap the live stream up. But Tomas, give you just a huge round of applause for pulling this whole thing.